Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. Today we're going over blood magic. This is a surprisingly deep topic. Let's start off here with what it's used for. The biggest thing that scares people about it is that it can be used to control minds. Even aside from that, it's very powerful. In Origins, we have the choice of letting Jowen do a ritual with blood magic, or inviting several mages with a lot of lyrium to do it instead. So based on that, a single human sacrifice for blood magic is about as much power as several mages using lyrium. Now, for reference, a human body usually has around 5 liters or 1.3 gallons of blood, give or take a bit. I don't know how much lyrium the mages bring, but I'm guessing it's around that same amount. So I think the multiple mages there were the main source of power. Now, this ritual specifically was sending a mage into the Fade to confront a demon. We learned from Solus and Inquisition that blood magic makes it more difficult for the user to enter the Fade, so that shouldn't be a big problem for the ritual. However, I do want to talk about that. This is corroborated in the last flight, in Chapter 10. Wardens Isaiah and Callian are having a discussion about it, and it says that those who practice blood magic do not touch the Fade when they cast spells. Although, later in that same book, demons are attracted to Isaiah while she's straining herself with blood magic. It says she couldn't shut them out completely because she was touching the Fade. So, I don't know which one to believe. Now, they have also said in other media that blood mages are more attractive to demons. I thought maybe that was just because demons are a common way to learn it, but no, it's plainly described in the book. I'm going to take a break from this because I want to talk about how it's learned. Demons are a common way of learning it. That's dangerous for obvious reasons. Some blood mages are self-taught. That's dangerous because it's easy for things to go really wrong when you don't know what you're doing. The safest way to learn blood magic is to be taught by an existing blood mage. Now, the use of blood magic was rampant in ancient times, and there are varying accounts as to how humans learned it. Some historians believe it was the old gods, and some believe it was the elves. Some even think it was the Forbidden Ones. Truthfully, it could have been any of them or none of them. It does seem likely that blood magic was used in Elvenon, but I don't get it. If the Fade was constantly all around them, shouldn't they all have had a virtually infinite supply of magic? I thought the only limitation was a person's knowledge, allowing them to cast more complex spells or shape the world more drastically. Maybe blood magic bolstered abilities further? I don't know. I don't see how. Blood is limited. The Fade isn't. Now, I want to take a step back and talk more about its dangers. Now, Solus, for a guy who witnessed leaders become tyrants, and who wholly believes organizations will inevitably become corrupt, and who thinks the Grey Wardens overstepped their bounds several times over, he doesn't seem to understand that power corrupts. Not always, but you need indomitable conviction to resist, and most people don't have that. Imagine if all mages were just allowed to use blood magic. How many would be using that for selfish or irresponsible reasons? Most. But we should talk about responsible blood magic. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. A Tevinter woman named Terina used blood magic to stop a wave of Qunari dreadnoughts approaching her city. In the last flight, Isaiah and Callian are both Grey Warden blood mages. Isaiah specifically used blood magic to save a clutch of griffin eggs, thereby preventing the species from going entirely extinct. So of course it can be used responsibly, but it's too easy to be put to more malevolent use. Like Hawk says, with one of my favorite lines from the entire series.
Everyone has a story they tell themselves to justify bad decisions, and it never matters. In the end, you are always alone with your actions.
I'll come back to this. Right now I want to get into the science of blood magic. Some argue that blood magic is even more natural than Fade or lyrium-based magic, since it's part of the natural world and not from beyond the veil. You could argue that the same could be said of lyrium, but lyrium is used to bolster a mage's natural connection to the Fade. I'm not going into lyrium right now because I value my relative sanity, but I will get into it in another video soon. So I'll stick to the basics for now. There's a codex entry in DA2 and Origins called Mana and the Use of Magic. It's explained that a mage has a certain amount of mana within them, and that is the power source with which they pull the Fade through into the physical world to cast spells. By using lyrium, a mage's mana is bolstered, allowing for more mana and thus more Fade. Blood, on the other hand, I mentioned earlier that in the last flight it stated that blood mages do not touch the Fade when casting spells. Now, according to in-game lore, that shouldn't work. I guess you're drawing the primordial energy out of blood and weaving it into a spell all within our world, as opposed to taking the primordial energy from the Fade and weaving that into a spell. But again, that shouldn't work. And Solus says blood mages have a harder time accessing the Fade. Odd, because that's exactly what ancient Tevinter was using it for. It's said that back in the day, lyrium was used to send a person's conscious mind into the Fade, just as it is in modern times. But after blood magic was discovered, it was learned that that could be used to invade the dreams of others. And a great many slaves were sacrificed by some magisters who were attempting to map the Fade. So, what? Now, we know the writers get all sensitive when you bring up retcons and contradictions, so I guess I'm going to move on for now. I was talking earlier about the ethics of using blood magic. There will always be people who use magic for malevolent reasons, blood or otherwise. That doesn't excuse the existence of the Circle or the treatment of mages. Specialized people guarding against the dangers of magic? Good idea, in theory. Having an institution that will nurture magic and train young mages? Good idea, in theory. The problem came down to the execution. Magic is not a danger so long as it's understood and handled appropriately. The same could be said for blood magic. The problem is that blood magic can be used to control thoughts and invade people's minds. Which, by the way, is something Solus is absolutely against. Meaning it makes no sense that he would just be okay with a tool that allows exactly that to be openly allowed. Saying you can use it, just not for that, that's like saying you can have liquor, you're just not allowed to drink it. Anyway, if blood magic is properly studied, understood, and taught, I can understand it being permitted to a select few people. Like, you have to pass several exams and apply for a license to practice under certain restrictions. Personally, I would still keep it illegal entirely because it's still open to misuse even under those circumstances. I do support the study of it. That's what Andrala did, and it's what led to the creation of the Litany of Andrala. The more we understand, the better. But I think that's about it for now. So to recap, blood magic shouldn't work, but it does because magic, I guess? It's not inherently evil, but it's too easy to misuse if it was openly allowed. And I think that's about it. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, Tala Nadas.